Dead by Geneva Rose. I'm going to try to do like a little recap of the last couple of chapters we read to kind of catch you up because we were on the roll last week and then we kind of fell off. But we're going to be reading every night, even if it's just for an hour. So we will be reading for an hour. So I'm going to start right away. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much. Okay, so the name of the book that we're reading is called One of Us is Dead. It follows a few young ladies. They're like the elite women of Buckhead, which is in Atlanta. It's kind of like the upshalon. So we have Jenny. She's the hairdresser. She's the owner of Glow. We have, I don't want to call her a sidekick, but we have her friend Keisha, who does nails and stuff in her shop. We have Olivia. Olivia is married to Dean, I believe. Olivia is like the troublemaker. She likes starting stuff. We have Shannon. Shannon was married to Bryce until Bryce divorced her and married a 25-year-old named Crystal. So they're bringing Crystal into the fold. We have Karen. She's been married to her husband Mark. They have a 5-year-old named Riley. We know that based off of like present day, the detective is going around talking to the young ladies. We don't know who has been unalived yet, but we know somebody died. The last thing we read, Shannon had put on this huge event where her husband or her ex-husband was being honored and she had to present him. Olivia was trying to play nice knowing that she was taking her position from her as chairwoman of the, I forgot what the name is. So we just gonna get the Buckheads Women Foundation. That's what it's called. Um, Okay, so we're gonna start with chapter 16. The last thing we read, Shannon was getting ready to introduce Bryce. I don't know if Olivia slipped her something, like she gave her a shot, but I don't know if it had anything in it. But let's get started. Chapter 16, Crystal. That's the new wife. I watched Bryce kiss Shannon on the cheek. I felt a bit uneasy, but I knew he was just trying to make nice. He didn't need his ex-wife making a scene, and he knew Shannon was like a china dish, fragile and prone to break into a million pieces. Is Shannon trying to steal her man back? Olivia said with a laugh. She's just being professional, Karen said. As is Bryce, I added. The only thing worse than hope is false hope. Olivia sipped her champagne. I'm going to go get a better view. This is for sure going to be a train wreck. Hey, Michael. She tried to grab Dean's hand, but he grabbed her arm with force. Stop, he warned in a low growl. Stop what? Olivia tried to pull her arm away. With the drama, he tightened his eyes. Ow, I'm just having fun. This time, when she pulled, her arm came free. It was covered in red marks from where his fingers had been. She rubbed her arm with her hand, trying to soothe it. That hurt you, a-hole. Cool it on the drinks. She pushed him back, turned on her foot, and disappeared into the crowd. When I glanced around at the other girls, it seemed nothing of them had noticed what happened. I had seen this type of toxic relationship before, and I knew firsthand that it could be deadly. Are you guys still having the monthly book club at the salon tomorrow morning? Jenny asked. Karen laughed. If you can even call it that, thanks to Olivia's pick. What book did she choose? Keisha asked. Vogue. The girls laughed, but I didn't. I was still thinking about what had just happened between Olivia and Dean. Was this a common occurrence? Was Dean abusive? The room suddenly quieted as the spotlight lit up on Shannon on stage. As much as she and I were at odds, I hoped this would go well. Shannon needs to show Buckhead that she had moved on, even if she hadn't just yet. She grabbed the mic and cleared her throat. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I'm Shannon Madison. She began. Whispers ensued throughout the audience, followed by shushing. Karen, Jenny, and Keisha helped quiet the crowd. I shook my head slightly. Oh, hold on. I shook my head slightly. She should have said Shannon Block. She was no longer Shannon Madison. She smiled and continued, thanking everyone for their generous contributions and talking about the charity and what the money would be used for. She thanked those who had volunteered. She thanked the members of the Buckhead Women's Foundation, and then it was time for her to introduce Bryce. Thank you so much. I think in the haste um hold on, I deleted the wrong person. I don't know. Okay. Hopefully I got the right person back. She smiled and continued to thank every. He was being honored for the work he had done to secure a building and the finances needed to open a recreation center in Atlanta for at-risk youth. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the man of the honor, Shannon began. Karen clasped her hands together as if she were praying. You all know him as your congressman, but I know him very differently, as he was once my husband. Sorry, Michael. Was it Michael? I think I accidentally blocked you. The comments were too close together. Um, we were madly in love, and together we built a beautiful life. Yes, I know you've all heard about our temporary separation. Whispers ensued. This is so painful, Keisha said to Jenny. Should we stop her? Karen asked. That'll make it worse, Jenny leaned in. Nothing can be worse than this, Keisha said. Shannon held her smile through all the whispering and continued. Love like I love Bryce and I had, have, never dies. It just changes, morphs like clay, but it can always be shaped back to its original shape. She's drunk, right? Keisha asked. Has to be, Jenny says. She looked over at me and gave me an encouraging smile. I wasn't the only one that needed the reassurance, though. Shannon needed all of the strength in the room at this moment. Shannon paced back and forth on the stage. The mic slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a loud thud. She bent down and nearly fallen over and picked it up. Oopsie daisy, she said. Now where was I? Oh, yes, Bryce and I were getting back together. People whispered and looked around the room. Eyes were on me, eyes were on Bryce, and eyes were on Shannon. Bryce started quickly up the stairs on the stage. They say if you love someone, let them go. And if they come back, then it's meant to be. So, Bryce, here you are. Shannon motioned to Bryce right as he got on stage. It had looked as though the whole thing had been planned, but Bryce's face had told the truth as it was red with anger and embarrassment. Come to me, my friend, my lover, my everything, my. Bryce grabbed the mic from Shannon. She tried to lean in for a kiss, but he stepped aside and she tumbled over. It would appear someone had a little bit too much to drink this evening, Bryce said with a smile. He looked at Shannon, who was still trying to get her footing. Her face was wrinkled in confusion, as if she had no idea what had just happened. The crowd exploded with laughter. Oh, Shannon, you sure know how to put the X in ex-wife, he laughed. Shannon's eyes moistened as she searched the faces in the crowd. My heart broke for her. In all seriousness, you did a wonderful job here tonight putting on this event. So thank you for the handoff, but I'll take it from here. You certainly deserve our gratitude in a night of relaxation, minus the alcohol, Bryce said, winking to the crowd, and then looking at Shannon. Her eyes grew wide like she was staring to understand what was going on. He returned his gaze to the crowd. Give it up for my ex-wife Shannon, everyone. Applause ensued as she slowly walked off stage. But as the great Taylor Swift once said, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. The crowd roared with laughter as Bryce slapped his own knee and the DJ quickly threw on the track. Shannon's eyes filled with tears. Karen, Keisha, and Jenny scurried towards her while everyone sang along to Swift's catchy lyrics. Bryce found my face in the crowd as he led the sing along, and he winked at me. My eyes narrowed, my lips remained pressed firmly together. How could he have done this to Shannon? How could he have embarrassed her like this? He loved her once. She had once been his wife. If he could do this to her, what would he do to me? If you're just joining, we're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Chapter 17. Karen. Shannon, it's not the end of the world, I said, holding her against me, hugging her like trying to hold on to Jello as she was falling apart in my arms. We were seated in the back of an uber black SUV on our way to Shannon's apartment. I needed to make sure she made it home okay. Yes, it is, she pulled away. Her makeup was smeared and she's now looking like a Picasso painting. I don't know what the H happened. One minute everything was fine, and the next everyone is laughing at me and I'm being escorted off stage. It wasn't that bad, I said, but I knew it was bad. I have no idea why she decided to do that. When I saw her earlier in the night, she was put together and seemed to have everything under control. They booed me off stage, and my ex saying, "We're never ever getting back together," she cried harder. The driver looked at us in the rearview mirror and raised his thick eyebrows. Eyes on the road, I said. Shannon had had enough people judging her for the night. His eyes snapped ahead as he turned onto her street. Shannon, what came over you? Why did you do that? I asked. She sat up straight and rubbed her temple. The car pulled up to the curb and parked. Shannon looked at me and then down at her lap. I'm not sure. Olivia was feeding me shots and being really nice to me, and she walked me to the stage and she said, Shannon rubbed her temples again, willing the memory to come back to you. What did she say to you? I asked. Bryce said there was a possibility we could get together if it all went well. Shannon snapped at her head up to look at me. I rolled my eyes. He's just toying with you because you were about to introduce him to all of Buckhead. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he meant it. Her eyes went wide. Shannon, don't fall for the BS. He embarrassed you right after, in front of everyone. So that was why you talked about reuniting when you were on stage, because he led you on? I took her hand and held it. She looked down at my hand. But Olivia. What about her? I asked. The driver got out of the car and opened Shannon's door. She didn't get out. Instead, she stared at her lap, and then the light bulb went on. Her head snapped up and her eyes went wide. She pulled her hand away and shuffled away from me. Olivia said you all voted to remove me as chairwoman, that the gala was my last event. She said it was because of my divorce. Is that true? Shannon narrowed her eyes. My mouth dropped open. You were removed as chairwoman, but when? When the heck did this happen? She interjected. I tilted my head. A little over a week ago, but Shannon stepped out of the vehicle with the help of the driver. How could you, Karen? You were supposed to be my friend. Her face was a mixture of anger and sadness. You and I are done. Shannon, wait. It's not what you think. The door closed with a slam, and she stormed off toward her apartment building without looking back. As the car pulled away from the curb, a tear escaped from my eye and ran down my cheek. Chapter 18. Jenny. I placed an assortment of lipsticks back in the slots of the acrylic organizer along with a few eyeshadow palettes and a couple of bronzers and highlighters. I had considered going right to bed after the gala, but my brain was buzzing and I figured I might as well clean up the salon since Keisha and I didn't have time earlier. My fingers pressed the switch on the wall, shutting off all the lights in the salon. Grabbing a handful of dirty makeup brushes, I made my way to the bathroom in the back. I pulled the sink drain closed, plopped the rubber cleansing mat in it, and ran in the water. The makeup brushes sunk to the bottom as soon as I tossed them in, a rainbow of colors bleeding off of them, staining the water like a tippet bath bomb. A crash in the salon made me instantly turn off the water. It was the sound of breaking glass. My breath quickened, and I was frozen in place while my brain vacillated between fight or flight. Another crash, and then there was a chime of the front door. The alarm didn't sound as I hadn't said it yet. The panel was next to the back door, and it was the last thing that I did before leaving at the end of the day. There were whispers, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. The crunch of glass told me someone was walking further into the salon. I slid off my heels quietly and tiptoed towards the bathroom door. My pulse pounded in my ears. The metal curtain ring screeched across the rod. I peeked my head down the hallway towards the back door. I could make my way out and run upstairs to my apartment, but my cell phone was in my purse on the front counter. There was a loud crash, the sound of something being knocked over, and the spilling of various items. I assumed one of the vanities. Cool it, one voice said. Just having a little fun, another voice said. I heard the sound of glass smashing against the floor, a mirror perhaps. They were destroying what I had built, piece by piece. Finally, before I could convince myself it was a bad idea, I started moving swiftly across the floor. I picked up one of the candle holders on the top of the vanity cabinet. It was colored like marble and extremely heavy. After a couple of deep breaths, I made my way out of the bathroom, down the hallway, and into the back of the salon. It was dark. I could see the outline of a man dressed in black. He had ransacked the place. The register beeped, so I knew the other person was on the other side of the curtains. The one closest to where I was had his back to me. He was bent over, looking through the cabinets where we kept extra bottles of alcohol. Vuva Kaluk? Nice, he said, pulling out one and ripping off the seal. And the other man yelled, I can't get this stupid thing open. It doesn't matter, the man closest to me said while fiddling with the bottle. Something small hit the floor. I assumed the wire cage. The cork popped off and he chuckled, immediately bringing the bottle to his lips. Champagne went everywhere. What the heck are you doing back there? The man up front yelled. Before he could answer, the candle holder came crashing down on his head. He yelped and fell forward. We're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. The curtains flew open, and the other man stood there, taking in the scene. All I could see were the whites of his eyes behind the ski mask. Oh, crap. I took my eyes off the guy on the floor too long because all of a sudden I was falling to the ground. My head hit the tile with a thud and my vision blurred. The candle holder flew out of my hand. The man with the ski mask was on top of me, his hands around my neck, squeezing harder and harder. I tried to reach for something around me, but there was nothing. Stupid bee, he seethed. Spit gathered at his lips, and his eyes were red with fury. I tried to reach for his ski mask to remove it, but couldn't. Dude, stop. You're going to unalive her, the other man begged. It was getting harder and harder for me to breathe. More pressure on my neck, my windpipe caving in against the pressure. You want to play rough? He teased. My voice croaked. Yeah, I sent a knee right to his groin. He winced, and I shuffled out from underneath him. Before I could get away, he grabbed my ankle and pulled me back. His fist connected with my face twice. First the eye, I saw stars dancing across my vision, everything else going black. Then the mouth, the taste of warm, thick iron coating the back of my tongue. I heard the other guy yell, the footsteps running from me rather than towards me, the glass crunch under his shoes. He had left, and I was pinned beneath the other man once again, fighting for every breath. Well, dang. I didn't even know there was a game on today. Hold on, y'all. Push pause. I got a message. So, who do y'all think the people is? Um. All right. Chapter 19. Crystal. A long walk was what I needed after how the gala had ended. Bryce said that he had business to tend to and celebratory cigars to puff with the boys. I was grateful for a reprieve from him because I was so angry and disappointed with how he had treated Shannon. She didn't deserve that. He had completely humiliated her in front of all of Buckhead. I had told him I was going for a walk and would Uber home from the salon. Earlier, I told Jenny that I had left my purse there, and she said that she would wait for me so I could grab it. But it was late. Honestly, I just wanted to walk to clear my head, so it didn't matter if Jenny was still up. A cool breeze made the humidity bearable and the walk from the gala to glow on Peach Street pleasant. I had never seen Buckhead so quiet and peaceful. Not a person or car in sight. The only sound I heard was the click of my heels along the sidewalk. I turned into Peach Street and saw the sign for Glow up ahead on the left. From where I was, it looked dark inside, so I assumed Jenny had gone to bed. I considered calling an Uber right there, but my feet kept moving forward. A large man dressed in black shorts and a hoodie suddenly darted out from one of the businesses, and I was sure it was Glow when I saw a shimmery gold bag in his hands. That was my bag. He was just 10 yards away, rifling through it. I quickened my pace and I called out, Hey! He snapped his head in my direction. The ski mask covered most of his face, his eyes wide and partially open mouth. Dang it, I didn't sign up for this, he said as he turned on foot and ran in the opposite direction. A large inky tattoo covered the back of his pale calf. I looked at it though as it had been done by a professional because it was unclear. I considered chasing him down but stopped in front of Glow when I saw the in the open door. I dialed 911 and placed the phone back in my bag. I was about to yell out, but I heard rustling inside followed by a scream. My hand went back into my bag and emerged holding a Ruger point 380 AC pocket pistol. I had a chrome finish and a hot pink grip. Better safe than sorry, I recalled my stepfather saying when he gifted me the gun all those years back. Treat it like a cell phone and always have it with you. I was grateful for his advice now. Taking a deep breath, I quickly decided between running in, guns blazing, or making a careful entrance. The man I saw clearly didn't have a weapon. The odds were if anyone else was in there, they wouldn't have one either. Running through the door, I threw open the velvet curtain and found a man dressed in black pinning Jenny to the ground. I fired a warning shot. The man quickly scrambled off hurt and ran down the hallway, crashing into a cabinet, and he fervently fled for what I'm sure he thought were for his last moments. I flipped the light switch as Jenny sat up. Her eyes was already blossoming into what would be a massive bruise. Her mouth was bloody. Oh man. Oh, thank you. People be saying that I read too fast, but I can't help it. Uh, Um, ambitious red marks covered her neck. She gasped for air, sucking deep, painful breaths that brought tears to her eyes. OMG, Jenny, I said, running to her side. Chapter 20. Present. Detective Stanford enters the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. This time, instead of the styrofoam cups full of essentially stale brown water, it's Starbucks. He places one in front of me. He's gotten more accommodating as the hours have passed, or perhaps he's taken a liking to me. Thank you, I say, bringing the cup to my lips. He nods. I appreciate your cooperation and you coming forward. Detective Stanford pulls a chair and takes a seat. So, the gala didn't go well? It was a disaster. He takes a sip of his coffee. Shannon must have been very upset after that. Obviously, Bryce embarrassed her in front of everyone who was anyone in Buckhead, and there was tension between Shannon and Olivia. He raises an eyebrow. I think there was tension between everyone, I say matter of factly. I found a police report that indicates that Glow was broken into the night of the gala, and you were injured that evening? He gives me a sympathetic look. My hand runs along my neck, rubbing it. Sometimes I can still feel my windpipe being crushed. I simply nod. I'm not sure what else he wants me to say. He clearly read the report, my statement, and Crystal's statement. There's nothing more for me to add. They never caught the people responsible. No, the police never caught the people responsible. I take another sip of my coffee. Had anything like that ever happened before? He tilts his head. No, never. According to the report, only a gold purse was stolen. That's correct. They couldn't get the register open. I swivel the Starbucks cup lightly. Do you think it was random? Detective Stanford raises the eyebrow again. I lean forward a little in my seat. I don't think anything that happened in Buckhead was random. Chapter 21. Olivia. I had to wear my long sleeve red Valentino dress today thanks to Dean grabbing my arm so aggressively last night. I don't know what the heck has gotten into him. I mean, I get it. He doesn't want me stirring up trouble, but still, it was unnecessary, and I left this morning without speaking a word to him. I'm sure I'll come back to a new designer bag and a few dozen red roses. I was off to Glow Salon for our monthly book club, and I was excited to discuss Vogue, and of course, Shannon. I assumed she wouldn't even attend for after her embarrassing episode at the gala. Ugh. Go left windows was boarded up and there was duct tape holding together the glass on the door. This place was going downhill fast. Why does this place look abandoned? I called out as I threw open the velvet curtains, making my way into the salon. I almost didn't come in case someone saw me. What would they say? But it's my pick of the month, so I had to be here. I turned up my nose and slid off my sunglasses. This place did look a little dingier, not as clean as usual. A makeup vanity was missing. Jenny should really get a maid in here. This place needs a lot of work. What the heck? Like you really can't assess that something is going on. The name of the book is called One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Crystal and Karen were seated on the couch. They still had the meeting at the freaking place after. Crystal and Karen were seated on the couch while Keisha was filling glasses with mimosas and finishing setting up. The coffee table was covered in platters of fresh cut fruits, croissants, and sliced cheese. Crystal looked rough. Dark circles sat under her eyes and she was dressed in Lululemon leggings and a white t-shirt. Karen looked average as well. Had these women just given up? I rolled my eyes. Glow was broken into last night. Karen looked at me. What? That's terrible. And Jenny was bad, Crystal said. Her eyes were glossy and her lip trembled. What? My hand flew to my mouth. Where is she? You don't really care. Before any of them could answer, Jenny walks in from the back. Her right eye was black and blue, her lip was swollen, her neck covered in bruises. OMG, Jenny, are you okay? I ran to her. I'm fine. It's not as bad as it looks, she said, beelining for the vanity. She applied some powder onto her neck, trying to cover it up, but the injuries were too dark. Can I get you anything? I have Vicodin, I offered. Oh no, I just want to enjoy this book club meeting and not talk about it, if that's all right. She forced a small smile, but winced a little, bringing her finger to her lip. There were nods all around. You know, I can handle everything here if you want to go upstairs and lie down, Keisha offered. Nonsense, I'm fine. I took a seat on the couch. Well, this is absolutely appalling, and I'll be bringing this up at the next committee meeting for a potential charity event, I said. Olivia, it's fine. Insurance is covering everything. The windows are getting replaced today, Jenny said, pouring herself a glass of orange juice. But your face is hideous. Olivia, Karen scolded. I mean that in the best way possible, of course, I said with a smile. It'll heal, Jenny said, taking a sip. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. Karen, you should really get Mark in here to look at her. She probably need reconstructive surgery, I said. She keep going. Karen rolled her eyes. Apparently she didn't care about Jenny like I did. Jenny clapped her hands together. Let's begin book club. Actually, this month is a Vogue club. I pulled out my fresh copy of Vogue from my bag. Top 5 worst outfits. Go, I said, pointing at Crystal. She looked as though she was going to cry, and I didn't know why. Are you okay, Crystal? I asked. She nodded. Yeah, but shouldn't we wait for Shannon? Crystal looked around at the rest of us for approval. Is she even going to show up? I mean, after last night, I grabbed a mimosa and brought it to my lips to extinguish the impending laughter. It wasn't that bad. Karen piped in and took a mimosa of her own. I pulled out my phone. You're kidding, right? I got it all on video. It's hilarious. I pushed play. I'm thinking about submitting it to WorldStar. Karen scowled at me. Turn that off, Olivia. What? It's just a joke. Lighten up, Keisha. You're probably the one who would know who knows what WorldStar. You're probably the only one who knows what WorldStar is anyway. And I winked at her. Oh Jesus, she like what? If Olivia ain't the one that's dead, then she need to be. Hey Mac, welcome back. If you're just joining, we're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. I wish there was a way that you could pin the comments. It probably is. Keisha furrowed her brow. You are something else, she said, shaking her head. Thank you, I smiled wide. Karen downed her whole glass and refilled it with just champagne. Why the H did you tell Shannon that she wasn't chairwoman anymore, Olivia? She asked, narrowing her eyes. I did? I placed my hands against my chest. It just slipped out. I'm so sorry. I know we agreed to wait. I must have had a little too much to drink. The lies came extremely natural. They just rolled off the tongue one by one. Karen exhaled deeply and then took a drink of her champagne. She's pissed now. She's not even talking to me. I shook my head. That's awful. But you know how she can be. I'm sure she'll get over it. You two are friends, I said with a small smile. Crystal leaned forward and filled a plate with cheese and 2 croissants. She stuffed the bread with cheese and ate it like a sandwich. How repulsive. What did Bryce see in her? I didn't get a chance to apologize to Shannon for Bryce's behavior last night, so hopefully she'll come, Crystal said with a mouthful of food. Uncultured swine. Her behavior was appalling, Karen confirmed. Crystal's eyes moistened. I still can't believe how he acted. Her voice cracked at the end. Little Miss Country, sure, but Little Miss Country sure put the pathetic and sympathetic. How dare she not stand by her man? Bryce did nothing wrong. It's not his fault Shannon is like a case of herpes, hard to treat and never truly goes away. The only way he'll ever get rid of Shannon is via a death certificate. I agree with you both. Bryce was out of line last night, I said, biting my tongue. Crystal gave me a pleased smile. Keisha's eyes widened and then relaxed when she made eye contact with Jenny, probably because it was hard to look at her. It was as though someone had taken a mallet to her face. It really put glow in a bad light. She pissed me off. Yeah, I'm fine. And she took another sip of her orange juice as her eyes bounced around the room and then back to me. Well, anyway, I think Bryce owes Shannon an apology. I piled the BS on thick. I agree, Karen and Keisha said in unison. Jenny gave a slight nod and then rubbed her bruised neck. She should be wearing a turtleneck. I'm going to make sure he does apologize, Crystal reassured. I'm so glad we're all getting along again, I said with a smile as wide as a 6-lane highway. Not everyone. Like I said, Shannon hates me, Karen said while sipping her champagne. You two will work it out, Jenny says. Her voice was soft and raspy. There's a wedge I could push in further. It's not your fault that Shannon got drunk and made a fool of herself. And it's not your fault that I accidentally sipped the beans on the whole chairwoman thing, I said with so much conviction in my voice. And how Bryce treated her isn't your fault either, Crystal added. I smiled at her. Hate to say it, but I agree with Olivia. Keisha gave me a curt smile. I appreciate that, Keisha. I smiled back. The front door chimed, and through the curtain walks Shannon, dressed head to toe in designer clothing. Her face was puffy, probably due to the alcohol she drank in excess the night before. Aside from that, she looked rather pulled together. That's probably why she was late, trying to make herself appear strong when we all knew that she was like a compact of pressed powder ready to fall apart. Sorry I'm late. What are you hands talking about? Shannon waltzed in and grabbed a bottle of champagne. She poured herself a drink and took a seat. Her voice was light and forced. You, I said. What happened to the window? Shannon asked, ignoring my comment. Break in, Jenny said. Shannon looked to Jenny. OMG, are you okay? Her eyes and mouth went wide. She doesn't want to talk about it, Keisha said, placing a hand on Jenny's shoulder. Yes, let's just focus on the book club. Jenny's voice was quiet. Shannon closed her mouth and nodded. Okay, sure. How are you doing this morning, Shannon? I asked. It took a moment for Shannon to look away from Jenny. She immediately looked back at her. Are you sure, Jenny? She asked again. Jenny nodded. Shannon, I asked you a question, I said, swirling my mimosa. She shot daggers at me. I've got some things I need to take care of now thanks to the recent betrayal. Her eyes flickered at Karen. Jenny and Keisha exchanged worried glances. Usually, I never noticed those two, but I knew I needed to be observant of everyone if I intended to gain power over this group of women. Shannon's reign was over. All hail Queen Olivia. Shannon, if you have something to say, just say it, Karen said. Is someone talking? Shannon held her hand to her ear. Sounds like an ex-backstabbing friend. Thank you. Karen rolled her eyes and took a sip of her champagne. Listen, Shannon. Crystal turned her body towards her. I want to apologize for Bryce's behavior last night. I'm truly appalled by it, and I, too, am upset with him. You planned a wonderful gala, and people are going to remember how incredible your event was. Crystal smiled. Shannon nodded slightly, but then raised her chin. There's no need to apologize for Bryce. He and I are having dinner tonight to discuss what happened between us. Crystal leaned back. Oh, I didn't realize he had arranged that. She took a gulp of her mimosa, finishing the rest of it. Do you really think that's a good idea? Karen asked. Shannon grabbed a few grapes and popped them in her mouth. Not sure who's talking, but yes. The exchange between Shannon and Karen reminded me of how Shannon used to treat me when I first arrived in Buckhead. At first, she pretended like I didn't exist, and then she bullied and ridiculed me. It was nice to see it happen to someone else for a change. Is it appropriate to go out to dinner with another woman's husband, Shannon? I said, knowing full well that I pot at the kettle. He was my husband first, Shannon shouted. She just took a deep breath and pretended to straighten her jewelry. So which outfit do you guys like most? Keisha asked, holding on to her copy of Vogue and trying desperately to change the subject. She was being the peacemaker, since Jenny surely couldn't handle it now. Page 53, I said, throwing poor Keisha a bone. She quickly flipped through the pages. I don't mind that you and Bryce are going out to dinner. We're happily married, Crystal said meekly. Keisha took a swig straight from the bottle. Karen bounced her foot faster. Jenny took the magazine from Keisha and flipped through it with so much vigor she ripped the other page. I was at the edge of my seat. The only thing that could make this more perfect was a small bag of skinny popcorn. So were we, Shannon said in the most dramatic way possible. Crystal's eyes tightened, and I thought for sure she was going to jump down Shannon's throat, but instead tears came slithering out the corners. How pathetic. Shannon, come on. Karen shook her head. What? Did you all forget? She stole my husband. Shannon threw her hands up. No, she didn't. 1 and 2 marriages end in divorce, Shannon. It's not that big of a deal, I said calmly. Oh, eat it, Olivia. Shannon waved a hand dismissively. I dropped my mouth open, acting as though I was appalled by her words, but really, I was rather enjoying myself. I thought I'd have to do so much more to get Shannon out of our group, but here she was, committing social suicide. I think you should leave, Karen said. Crystal, you should leave. I think you should leave, Karen said. Crystal, you should leave, Shannon smiled. No, you, Shannon. Karen raised her chin. Shannon whipped her head in Karen's direction. She scowled at her and stood up from her seat with force. Fine, I don't want to be here anyway, especially around a fake friend like you, Karen. She looked at each of us. Vogue isn't even a book, Olivia, you half-wit. And Crystal, I'll tell my husband, his WHORE said hi. Whoa. Oh, thank you so much for that. Shannon turned on her foot but stopped and looked at Jenny. I'm so sorry. I'll call to check on you later. She gave a sympathetic look and then turned back and stormed out. We all took intermittent sips of our drinks and glanced at one another. Keisha refilled her glass. Well, that was interesting. Can we revoke her membership now? I raised an eyebrow. No, she's just having a hard time, Jenny said. Yeah, well, she's doing so well. I guess the mixture of what Bryce did and losing the chairwoman position just made her freak out. Karen glared at me and shook her head. Excuse me. I feel bad for her. Crystal wiped her eyes with a napkin and took a bite of her cheesy stuffed croissant. Karen bounced on her foot. We all do. I nodded along, my body doing the opposite of what my mind was thinking. If you're just joining, we are reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Chapter 22, Shannon. Right this way, the hostess said as she escorted me to her corner table, set for two. She pulled out my chair and told me she'd send the server over when my other guests arrived. I'll have a bottle of Dom Perignon. Dom Perignon. Child, it don't read the way that it's pronounced. She gonna have a bottle of champagne, Dom Perignon. Right away, I said. She nodded. I was dressed in my tightest designer dress and my highest heels, waiting eagerly for Bryce to arrive. I had asked him to dinner so that we could discuss what happened and how we'd move forward as a couple. He had agreed. However, he was unaware of my true intentions. Sure, Bryce had embarrassed me in front of the whole town, but I backed him into a corner, and he couldn't just outright declare his love for me. He had his career to think about. Now that we'd been alone, he had to disclose his true feelings like he had just did before the mishap on stage. I knew I sounded delusional, but this was how it was always been with Bryce. I had to convince him to love me the first time, all those years ago, and I knew I had to do it again. And I knew, he was the type of man that made decisions with both his heads. The heart never played a part. Bryce was like an ice sculpture, cold and inflexible, so I just had to chip away at him carefully. Either he'd be sculpted into the man that once loved me, or he'd be destroyed in the process. A moment later, two servers arrived with two glasses and a bottle of champagne and a bucket of ice. One popped the champagne and poured it, while the other straightened the table and placed the bottle back into the bucket. I gave them a pleased smile and thanked them. I took a sip of the champagne. The cool, crisp bubbles made my tongue tingle. I glanced down at my watch. Bryce was 5 minutes late. Of course, he would make me wait just a little longer. I quickly pulled out a compact and ensured my makeup was perfectly set. Just as I placed it back in my purse, I spotted Bryce across the room. I waved and smiled. His lips were pressed firmly together as he gave a small nod and headed in my direction. I stood from my chair and went in for a hug, even though he was already half seated. Thank you so much for coming, I said. He patted my back and sat down. I made my way to my side of the table and took a seat across from him. I couldn't help but smile. He grabbed his glass of champagne. Oh, a toast. Perfect. I held my glass up. He pulled his from his lips. To us, I said, and I clinked mine to his. Shannon, what are you doing? He set his glass back down, raising an eyebrow. He leaned back in his chair, looking me up and down. It was clear that he liked what he saw. Okay. Just greeted my husband, I winked. X, he corrected. I shrugged my shoulders. Potato, potato, I giggled. Have you been drinking? He asked. Because I don't want to have this conversation with you if you've been drinking. He put his elbows on the table and leaned towards me. I mean it, Shannon. I don't want another episode like last night. Of course not. This is my first glass. Promise, I lied. I had had a small cocktail, or four, at home. He nodded. Now, what did you want to discuss exactly? You mentioned living in the Buckhead Avenue community. First, let's order food. I'm famished. I picked the menu up and pretended to read it. I just wanted more time with him. I needed more time to explain why it would be in his best interest to get back together with me. He needed to see how good we were as a couple. Fine, he said just as the server arrived. Can I start you off with some appetizers? She asked. Bryce shook his head. Yes, we'll have one of each to start, I blurted out. She nodded and walked away. I don't have all night. I have some things I'm working on. I know, babe. I understand more than anyone else how important your work is to you. Just relax and enjoy yourself. Bryce took a deep breath and grabbed his glass of champagne, taking a large gulp of it. The server returned with bread and some of the cold appetizers. So, how was work today? I served myself steak tartare and a piece of bread. Busy, he said while slurping up an oyster. Oh, it was like he hadn't even missed a beat. Everything was just as it had always been. I knew the girls were pissed at me for my behavior earlier, but I was just as pissed at them. None of them believed in Bryce and me. None of them had my back at the gala, but I knew that after we got back together, they'd all come around. They'd have to. Did you hear about the break-in at Glow? It's such a shame. Jenny did not look well. I said, despite my own problems, I was absolutely gutted to have seen Jenny in the state earlier. He nodded. Yeah, Crystal was there when it happened. She's shaking up, and I should be with her right now. I gasped. Crystal was there? I didn't know that. He let out a deep breath. She wanted to go for a walk after everything had happened and left her purse at Glow. When she got there, one of the men ran off, and the other was strangling Jenny. She shot her gun, and he ran off too. I brought a hand to my mouth. She has a gun? My eyes went wide. Bryce didn't answer. He just took a sip of his champagne. I had no idea Crystal had basically saved Jenny, and now I felt a little guilty that I had arranged this meeting. But Bryce was mine first, and I needed him back if I was going to get back my life, so I charged for it. Another set of appetizers arrived, and we placed our entree orders. Bryce even asked for a second bottle of Dom. It seemed he definitely wanted to be here with me. Everything is so lovely. I gestured towards the food. He nodded. It is. This is my favorite restaurant in town. I patted my lips with my napkin. I know. He gave me a sly smile. It appears we can get along. I think that we could do more than that. I took a long, slow sip of my champagne while Bryce devoured another oyster. Right. I didn't want to apologize for my behavior last night, he started. Oh, enough about that. It was all just a misunderstanding, I interrupted while flicking my hand. No, he put his hand up. My behavior was out of line, and I apologize for embarrassing you. That was never my intention. Bryce glanced around the room and then back at me. I hope that we can move past it together, he said with a smile. Hey, cross dressing. I nodded and he smiled back. Of course, good. He tossed a piece of fried calamari into his mouth. See, that's how you know you got money when you freaking order all of the appetizers on the menu. Child, we be lucky if we get one appetizer. They got calamari, oysters, the heck. Just as we finished with our appetizers, our plates was clear and our entrees arrived. Looks yummy, I said as I dug my fork into my honey glazed salmon. Bryce busied himself eating his filet mignon and fingerling potatoes. I took a few deep breaths, readying myself for what I was going to do next. This was my moment. I had thought about it all day, and after the argument at the salon, I knew this was what I needed. It was going to make everything all better. I set my fork down on my plate and took a sip of my champagne. Bryce hadn't noticed that I stopped eating. He didn't notice that my eyes were on him as I reached into my purse and pulled it out. Uh, we're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. I stood from the table with one hand behind my back, shielding his eyes from what I was doing. Bryce, he looked up at me, my eyes meeting, confusion setting in his face, composure already set in mine. What are you doing? Do you have to use the bathroom or something? He asked. It's over. What's over? He looked up at me and looked me up and down. You and Crystal. He glanced around the restaurant uneasy and then back at me. Shannon, don't do anything crazy. Collapsing on one knee, I gazed up at him and smiled wide on my face and pulled the object from behind my back, a small box with his old wedding ring in it. I opened it and Bryce's eyes grew wide. He was clearly surprised, but it was a good surprise. His face became red. He was blushing, his eyes tightening. He was trying to hold back the tears. Get up! Get the F up! He harshly whispered. Bryce, you are my beginning and my end. I know we got lost in the middle, but let's not waste any more time apart. Will you be my husband again? Tears rolled down my cheeks and my voice cracked, which caught the attention of the other patrons in the restaurant. Whispers ensued. All the attention was on Bryce and me. There were lights shining on us from cell phones. People were capturing our special moment together. Get up, he whispered through a clenched jaw. I'll stand if you say yes, I whispered back. He nodded. I stood up quickly, announcing the restaurant. He said yes. People cheered and clapped. Immediately, the server brought us a plate of chocolate-covered strawberries. I had arranged for that earlier. I leaned in for a hug and attempted to plant a kiss on his lips, but he pushed me off. Enough, Shannon. The restaurant immediately went silent. What do I have to do to get it through your head that our marriage is over? This is pathetic. You are pathetic. My joyful tears turned to sorrowing sobs almost instantly. But I love you, Bryce. We're good together. You said it was yourself at the gala. You said it yourself at the gala. It's kind of a blur. I swear I was drugged, but I remember you said maybe we could work something out. You called me beautiful. I only said that so you could do a good job of introducing me. I don't love you. I loathe you. We are not good together, Shannon. He shook his head and rubbed his temple. Sometimes I think divorcing you wasn't enough. What is that supposed to mean? Bryce looked at me, his eyes darkening. He threw his napkin down and chugged the rest of his champagne. Trust me, you don't want to find out. Just stay out of my life, he said, pointing a finger at me. I threw my hands on my hips. Is that a threat? I'm a man of my word, he leaned into me. And as much as me being a widower would drum up sympathy votes next election, let's not have it come to that, he whispered. What the heck? My mouth fell open. He leaned back, placed a hand on my shoulders, and smiled at me. Sorry about that, folks. Just an honest misunderstanding about my ex-wife here is off her meds, he said in his politician voice as he turned towards the other patrons. How about a round of drinks on me? Bryce flashed a toothy smile. The crowd clapped and cheered. I stood there stunned, unable to move, unable to speak. My eyes erupted with tears again. She'll be fine, he assured the server. I grabbed my purse and bolted out of the restaurant. Everything around me was spinning. I could barely walk straight. How could I let him do this to me? Do it once, shame on you. Do it twice, shame on me. Do it 3 times, and I am truly an effing idiot. Chapter 23, Crystal. I finished applying my chapstick and gave myself a once-over in the mirror. I was dressed in a black romper, flats, and a jean jacket. I'm sure Olivia will balk at my choice of outfit, but we were just meeting for drinks. My idea. I had decided to give Olivia another chance at becoming at very least acquaintances. After witnessing Dean put his hands on her at the gala, I understood that she was going through more than meets the eyes, and I wanted to be there for her. Plus, anything to occupy my time and my mind was welcome. Sometimes when I closed my eyes, I saw Jenny on the floor of the salon, bloodied and bruised. Who would do that to who would do something like that to another person? And for what? A purse? That was all they got away with. Police said the robbers clearly didn't expect anyone to be there, which is why it went so south fast and why the other guy fled. So far, they had no leads. All they could go off was all the blotchy tattoo on the back of the man's calves who ran away. But his voice, if I heard it again, I knew that I'd know it in an instant. Dang it, I didn't sign up for this. His words, but sometimes they felt like mine too. I heard the front door open and close. Bryce was home from his dinner with Shannon. He had phoned me earlier to let me know that he had agreed to do a dinner with his ex-wife in order to smooth everything over and apologize for his behavior. I appreciated the effort, minus the fact that the dinner and the apology wasn't his idea. His footsteps were loud as he made his way up the stairs to the master bedroom. I fluffed my hair with my fingers and threw a purse over my shoulder just as he entered the room. He pulled loose his tie and took off his jacket, tossing it on the bed. How'd it go? I asked. Bryce unbuttoned his white shirt. Well enough. Did you apologize? I did. His answers were short. I knew he wasn't telling me the full truth. Are you two on good terms then? I raised an eyebrow. He pulled his shirt and pants off and stood there in a white t-shirt and boxers for a moment before walking over to me. Bryce lifted my chin with his hand. She's not going to bother us anymore, he said, planting a kiss on my forehead and then on my lips. I'm going to shower. Want to join me? I can't. I'm going to meet Olivia for a drink. I knew he wasn't telling the whole truth, but I was sure enough going to find out soon. If the truth were if they truly were in a good spot, then Shannon's attitude towards me would improve, or so I hope. That's good. Maybe Dean and I should join you too. Girls only, I smiled. He kissed me on the forehead again. Then I won't intrude. Bryce took a step back and walked to the bathroom. Before closing the door, he turned around and said, I love you, Crystal. I love you +1. His smile widened, revealing his perfect white teeth and clear, charming dimples. Then he disappeared into the bathroom. Something didn't feel right. Like my mom used to say, always trust your gut. And for some reason, ever since I met Bryce, I hadn't been doing that. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. If you're just joining, we're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Chapter 24, Karen. Good night, my sweet boy, I said, flicking off the lights in Riley's dinosaur-themed bedroom. He was all tuckered out after a night of just the two of us playing in the backyard, eating pizza, and watching his favorite movie, Harry and the Hendersons. It was a childhood favorite of mine, too. Mark was still in Miami and wouldn't be back this week. He said he had plastic surgery conference to attend. I wasn't sure if he actually did or he just didn't want me to be around. He just didn't want to be around me. We hadn't been getting along so well after I urged him to take a vacation and questioned him about his kinship with Olivia. He had said he was too busy for a vacation, that he was just being nice to her as she's my friend and his client. I closed Riley's bedroom door and made my way to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of red wine. The doorbell rang. I quickly set down my drink and ran to the front door before whoever it was on the other side could ring it again. I opened the door, and there stood Shannon. Her eye makeup was halfway down her face. Her hair was disheveled. Her eyes were bloodshot and wet with tears. I had nowhere else to go, she sniffed. I didn't even hesitate before I invited her in, guided her into the house. Sure, we had been fighting, but fights were almost always temporary. She flicked off her shoes and collapsed into the couch. Let me get you some water. I went to have dinner with Bryce tonight, she said, and then broke into a sob. I filled 2 glasses with ice water in the kitchen and hurried back to Shannon before she fell completely apart on my couch. She quickly took a gulp while I took a seat beside her on the couch. What happened? I asked. I proposed to him, she cried. You what? I whipped my head towards her, saving the judgment, I reminded myself. I know, I'm an effing idiot. Shannon took another big gulp of water. No, you're not. You're just a woman with a broken heart. I placed my hand on her knee. He said no, by the way. She looked at me with a crumpled face. I figured that much. I gave her the most sympathetic look. And he threatened me. Shannon's face turned from sadness to anger. He what? Well, I think he threatened me, told me to stay away from him and Crystal, and something about becoming a widower. She set her glass down, folded her arms across her chest, and leaned back into the couch. Bryce is an a-hole, always has been, I said, setting my glass down and matching her posture. She turned her head towards me and let on a small smile. You're right, aren't you? Yeah, he's kind of slimy. He is slimy, isn't he? I nodded and put my hand on hers. You're going to be just fine. Trust me, the men in our lives don't define us. We define ourselves, I said to her, but in a way, I was saying it to myself. But I lost my chairwoman position because I'm divorced, she cried. You didn't lose it because you were divorced. It was because you missed 2 meetings. I'm sorry I didn't tell you right away. I wanted you to be happy and focus on the gala. I didn't want it to interfere with your big night, I said. Olivia said it was because my divorce got in the way and that it was unanimous. Shannon bit at her lower lip. I let out a groan. Don't listen to Olivia. I voted against it, but it was in the bylaws. That's how Olivia got the motion through. Karen, I'm really sorry for the way that I acted today. I'm so embarrassed by today, last night. She lowered her head and shook it. It's fine. Really it is. I understand. Life is hard and living in Buckhead is even harder. I'm here for you no matter how big you get, I said with a laugh. She laughed too and immediately wrapped her arms around me for a tight hug. She was going to be okay. My phone buzzed and I picked it up from the coffee table. It was text from Keisha. Have you seen this? Oh my effing God. I said out loud as my mouth dropped open. Shannon looked at me with worry in her eyes. What is it? I shook my head. You don't want to know. It's probably somebody posting a proposal on social media. That's what it gotta be, you know. Chapter 25, present day. Jenny. Detective Stanford pulls his phone from his pocket and places it on the table. He clicks around and pulls up a saved video. Excuse me. One of my officers came across this. He faces the screen towards me. Can you tell me about it? I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and then reopen them. On the screen is a still image of Shannon. The video is titled Woman Commits SUI, the big S, SUICIDE. Yes, I nod. Chapter 26, Olivia. I took a seat at a table in a small cocktail bar on P Street and ordered 2 vodka martinis. Crystal had phoned earlier asking me to meet, and I was more than happy to do so. I knew I had done well at the salon earlier, saying all the right things. These women would come around now and realize that I wasn't so bad after all. They should know that I was just easier to have me on their side, and Crystal needed someone to take her under her wing. I was the person. Sure, my wing wasn't big, white, and feathery like an angel's. It was more like a bat's, quick and dark with claws hiding beneath. Hey, how are you? Crystal said, taking a seat and placing her purse on the back of her chair. She was underdressed again. I was wearing a little red cocktail dress and she was wearing a jean jacket. Now that we were allies, it was something I could help her with. I refrained from looking her up and down and instead smiled. I'm good. I'm glad we could get together. I ordered you a vodka martini. Oh, thank you. I've never had one. I'm more of a beer type of girl. I held the smile on my face. It was nearly impossible to not snarl. A beer type of girl? Something else I could teach her. The server said a vodka martini in front of both of us. I quickly took a sip. You're going to love it. Crystal picked up her glass and held it to her lips. She was apprehensive, but she tipped the martini back anyway. Her face crumpled up as soon as it hit her tongue. She set the drink down, coughed, and tried to compose herself. That'll take some getting used to. It's rather sophisticated, so I guess it's not for everyone. Do you want to order a beer instead? Oh no, this is fine. I've got to start fitting in somehow, she laughed. No need to worry about that, Crystal. With me by your side, you'll fit in just fine, I said. She took another sip, but this time kept her composure. Maybe she was teachable, like a charity project of mine or a small pet. So, I asked you here tonight because I wanted to make sure that you were okay. She dropped her chin in a sympathetic way. Oh, you mean because of Shannon's behavior? She doesn't faze me anymore. Shannon is a total mess, and she's so obsessed with Bryce. I said it's sad. I should be the one worried about you. How did her dinner with him go? Are you and Bryce okay? She didn't do anything, did she? No, Crystal said awkwardly. Not that. Bryce and I are fine. It seems their conversation was productive. I was talking about what happened between you and Dean at the gala. She took another sip of her martini. I waved my hand at her, dismissing her comment. What? That was nothing. Dean had had a little too much to drink, and he was just upset about all the drama. He hates drama, I explained. Crystal crinkled up her face as she was trying to understand what I was saying or making sense of it. She wasn't the brightest crayon in the box, that was for sure. I took another sip of my martini and signaled the waiter for two more. I was going to need it to get through this conversation. You sure? She asked. Sure of what? He grabbed your arm really hard. Has he done that to you before? She stared right into my eyes. I didn't know what her angle was, but I didn't like it. Why was she sitting here asking me these questions? My relationship was none of her business. The server set down two more martinis just as I finished my first. Yeah, I'm sure, I said, rolling my eyes at her. You can talk to me, Olivia. I was in an abusive relationship. I understand what it's like. She placed her hands on mine. Who? Bryce? Is that why Shannon is so hung up on him? Stockholm Syndrome? She pulled her hand away and finished her first martini. No, Bryce has never been physical with me. I was referring to a past relationship. I just wanted to talk to you to make sure you're okay. Her face softened and she smiled at me. I gave her a small smile, weighing out my option. The best way to get someone to like you was to make them feel sorry for you. Perhaps the right play just landed in my lap. If it wasn't for Dean pushing me to make nice with her, I would have told her to F off right then and there, but power required looking ahead rather than living in the moment. So I had to play the game, and I was more than willing. Social climbing wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon. Thank you for being here for me. Your compassion is so interesting. I'll be honest with you. Dean has never been physical before, but he did scare me last night. He's been growing more and more angry and short with me recently, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's me, I said, hanging my head in fake shame. Know that you are not responsible for the way other people act, including the ones you love. Crystal reaches across the table and squeezes my hand. I just love him so much, I said, getting my voice to crack at the end perfectly. I'm sure he loves you too. And listen, I don't know what your relationship is like with Dean, but I'm here for you if you need to talk about anything or need help. I took a sip of my martini and nodded. My relationship with Dean was fine, and it wasn't any of her business, but if she wanted to be the useless rock in my life, I'd allow it. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really love for us to be close. I know what it's like to be the new girl in town. I squeezed a single tear out. Oh, she said, handing me a napkin. I dabbed the tear away. It was like a bullet in the chamber of a gun, always loaded and ready to spill out if needed. I'm sorry. It's just you being new here brings up some really bad memories for me. I took a sip of my martini. Do you want to talk about it? She asked. I shouldn't, but yes. When I moved, hey, thanks for coming in. When I moved here, Shannon was absolutely awful to me. She pretended like I didn't exist for long, and then when she did start paying attention to me, she bullied me, calling me the most awful names and making me the butt of every joke. It wasn't until I discovered Glow that she started treating me better. But it took 2 more years of torment. I shook my head. Crystal reached across the table and put her hand on mine. I'm sorry, Olivia. I had no idea you went through that. I wanted to flick her hand away, but I just let it rest on mine. Thank you. I know you're not as sophisticated or glamorous as I was when I arrived, but I promise to never treat you like that. You and I have to stick together, I said, holding a martini glass up. She clinked her glass against mine, gave a smile back, and took a sip. You should come to Glow the day after tomorrow. Jenny told me they're doing manis and mimosas. Sounds like a fun time. There's always an event at the salon, she said with a laugh. How dare she invite me to the very event I created? Who did she think she was? Was she trying to be the new me? Trying to take my reign? Silly girl. I would love that, I said with a big fat effing smile. My lip nearly split. Chapter 27. Carrie had begged me, oh, Shannon. Carrie had begged me not to watch it again, but I couldn't help myself. Every time I viewed it, I died a little more inside. How could I have become this person? You never get to see the way people see you, but I did. The video played again. First, it was me on stage at the gala, drunk and sloppy. Then, it was me in the restaurant proposing to Bryce, drunk, delusional, and sloppy. The whole thing was edited so some parts would play over and over again, like a track on an album. Someone had anonymously uploaded it to YouTube under the title "Woman Commits SUI" with the social SUI in the description. Dang. How clever, I rolled my eyes. I pressed stop to the video and sunk deeper into my couch. It was already up to over 10,000 views. Karen had said she reported it and would work on getting it taken down, but the views kept going up and it was being posted on other sites and apps. I scrolled down, venturing towards the comment section. I knew it wasn't a good idea to read them, but I couldn't help myself. What a stupid bee. Too bad she didn't actually unalive herself. OMG, I would die. This is cringe gold. Clickbait at its finest. LOL, this is fake, right? It has to be. No one is that pathetic. Nice tits. Money can't buy class, that's for sure. Anyone know her name? I squeezed my eyes tightly together, pushing tears out of the corners, and took a deep breath. Bryce had to have done this. He was at the gala in the restaurant and he had threatened me. I hated him, but right now I hated me more. My phone was from Karen on the screen. Check it to make sure you're all right. They should be down. Did the video really matter? So many people saw me like that in person. I just hadn't seen myself, and I was truly embarrassed for who and what I had become. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenny. Thinking about you. Hope you're okay. I hadn't been okay for a while. I just didn't know it, but I couldn't deny what was right in front of me anymore. The video was proof, and I was a tiny bit grateful for it. I needed to change. I needed to be better. I couldn't go on living if I didn't. Okay. Chapter 28. Karen. I think this is gonna be the last chapter because I gotta get up at 4 o'clock, and I don't think I'm gonna make it. Yeah, but this is gonna be the last chapter, and we're gonna stop. Chapter 28. Karen. I was running about 15 minutes late to my spray tan appointment with Jenny. Thanks to dealing with YouTube all night, the video had finally been taken down after accumulating over 100,000 views. Poor Shannon. I had read the comments and I knew that she did too. Each one was viler than the last. I had decided to get a pedicure after the spray tan just so that I could be there when Shannon arrived. She hadn't spoken to me since she left last night, but she said that she'd be in today to be there for Jenny and to apologize to her and Keisha for the way that she acted at the book club. I threw open the recently repaired salon door and walked right past the black curtains because the front area was empty. Keisha was sitting in the pedicure chair with her feet massaging the water, drinking a glass of lemonade, and looking completely lost in thought. Hey, sorry I'm late for my appointment with Jenny, I said, looking around the salon. Jenny was nowhere in sight. Actually, Jenny went to the doctor for a follow-up. Are you good with me doing it? Keisha said, taking her feet out of the water. Yeah, how's Jenny? I tilted my head. She's a bit jumpy and shaken up still, which I expect. Keisha pulled in her lips. I'm trying to do everything around here to help out as much as possible, but she's not really accepting much help. She stood up and dried off with the towel before slipping on a pair of sandals. Jenny's a tough woman. I can't even imagine what she's going through. That must have been terrifying. I fidgeted with my fingernails. She's a little too tough, if you ask me. Keisha raised an eyebrow. She shuttered the whole thing out and refuses to talk about it. Keisha rubbed her forehead. I could tell she was worried sick about Jenny. We all are. Hey, thank you for joining. If you're just joining, we're reading One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Well, people respond to different things differently. I'm sure she'll be all right, I said with a nod. I hope so. Speaking of how people respond to things, how's Shannon after the video? Keisha's eyes went a little wide. She wiped down the pedicure chair. She's upset. She was with me when you sent it. She had come over to apologize. That was painful to watch, Keisha cringed. I know, it was. It's taken down now. Who do you think uploaded it? Shannon is convinced it was Bryce. He was at both events and he had threatened her at dinner, I explained. These people, I swear. Keisha shook her head in disgust, then glanced at me. No offense, you're nothing like the others here, and I mean that as a compliment. Thank you, I smiled. But Shannon will be in later this afternoon. I apologize to you and Jenny for what happened at the book club. Keisha beckoned me with her hand and we walked to the spray tan room in the back. That's nice of her. Not necessary, but nice. Despite how horrible that video was, it seems to have pulled her back to reality. I think she's finally seeing things clearly now and realizing her marriage is truly over. Okay. Thank you, Alex. Alexander. While she prepared, I found myself watching her, captivated by her beautiful profile, wishing that she might look back at me once more. Then Keisha said something entirely unexpected. Why do you spend so much time with these women, Karen? Don't be fooled. I see what goes on around here, and I can tell that you're different from the others. You see past all their BS and pointless rivalries. She almost spat the words, such with her vehemence. Initially stunned, it took me a moment to gather my thoughts enough to respond. The truth is, I've begun to question my place in the world more and more these days. It's not just Buckhead or my friendships, it goes deeper than that. I find myself questioning everything, even my marriage. I just wish that I didn't feel quite such a stranger to myself. Keisha glanced at the ground, hesitant to say more, before returning to my gaze. I know what it's like to question your identity, Karen. I know what it's like to not feel seen or know who really are. But I want you to know that in my eyes, you're amazing. And then she smiled this warm, open smile that made me realize that Keisha meant every word. After an awkward pause, I began to remove my clothing for the spray tan. Keisha turned towards me, and rather than start, she hesitated, holding the nozzle by her side, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. I should have felt uncomfortable, but I wasn't. I knew that Keisha wasn't judging me. Her eyes were filled with a fresh curiosity and something else. Could it be longing? I felt it in my heart rate rise. My eyes met Keisha's. Her full lips fell slightly apart, moisture forming between them, and I could say the same for mine. I hadn't had a feeling in a very long time, if ever. Just then, I realized what was wrong with my marriage. It wasn't my hormones. It wasn't the stress of raising a child. It wasn't my husband. There wasn't anything actually wrong with me. Keisha started to compose herself, tightening her lips and avoided eye contact, but I knew it was now or never. I closed the distance between us, standing just inches from her. There was a moment of stillness, of reckoning between us, before Keisha took one small step forward. Tentatively, our lips met as her right hand caressed the side of my face. I found myself instantly responding. I kissed her so hard and with such passion that all of the sexual frustration melted out of my body like an ice cream cone on a hot summer day. She dropped the spray tan unit and clucked when it hit the ground. Tin and liquid spilled onto the floor, and we stood in a puddle of it. She wrapped her arms around me, pressing her lips firmly against mine. Our tongues tingled and our lips moistened. She grabbed my breast for a moment and then slid her hands down my stomach. I took off her shirt and bra, revealing perky beef cup breasts. I immediately dove onto them, but she brought my face up to kiss her again and again. I had never been in with a woman before, minus some experimentation in college. Perhaps it was just experimentation, though, because I seemed to know exactly what to do, as though I should have been doing this all along. Her hand slithered beneath my belly, then down to my pelvis. Just as she was about to venture further, the front door chimed. Spicy meatballs. All right, we're gonna stop there. Thank you so much for joining. This is only like about my fifth time like actively going live on YouTube. I am not on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook right now, so all of my energy is going to posting a short a day, posting two long form videos a week, and going live. I used to do the readings on TikTok, and now I'm doing it on YouTube until I am back on TikTok in April, maybe earlier if I break my fast. But I thank you all for being here. The trolls will come. People are not going to like what they see. They're going to have something to say. And I could meet them where they at. I could go to their pages. I could clap back. But I'm just choosing to remove them from my page. So if I accidentally remove you, I'm sorry. If you made it this far and you watched the replay, thank you so much for watching. We will be reading every night this week. 12:30 on Tuesday, which is tomorrow/today. 10 o'clock on Wednesday, 12:30 on Thursday, and 12:30 on Friday. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow.